Once upon a time, there was a very hard-working farmer named Ali, who lived in a farming village in the fertile Punjab province of Pakistan. Ali had 4 sons. Their names were Akbar, Asghar, Nazir, and Baba, the youngest of the 4. These 4 brothers were very different from all the other children who lived in the nearby rural areas, because these 4 spent most of their time playing and doing mischief. When the people living in the neighborhood got tired of these brothers' mischief, they would complain to Ali. Then all those mischievous brothers would become forgetful, and would even apologize to the neighbors without intending to keep their promise. There was a primary school in the village. Ali enrolled his 4 sons there in the hope that some discipline would be established among them. But all the brothers went to school very late every day. And no matter how many times the teacher scolded them, they would not change their ways. Ali was a very kind-hearted man, and he never spoke harshly to his sons. Rather, he would sit with them and try to convince them by giving them arguments. "Dear sons," the kind-hearted father said one day very lovingly, "you are still very young, and spend all your time playing. But if you do not learn to work hard at this age, when you grow up you will not be able to do anything." All the sons said in unison with great enthusiasm, "Father, don't worry at all, we will learn everything very soon, we promise." But as soon as their father agreed to give them another chance, the 4 brothers would immediately forget their promise. And soon they would fall back into their old ways. And wherever they went, they would be seen doing mischief, causing destruction and ruin. If anyone asked them to do any work, they would all make up all kinds of excuses. While in reality, these 4 brothers were very lazy. Then, in the same way, the days, months, and years passed, and these 4 grew up and became young men. They never learned to read or write, nor did they do any work on the farm to help their father. They always blamed each other for their fabricated nonsense and troubles. And not one of them, not even once, accepted responsibility for their bad behavior. Eventually, Ali became a weak and old man, but he was still forced to work alone in the field all day. This work was very hard for an old man, and Ali found those days very difficult. The crop yield also decreased, and with it the wealth he could have earned by selling the crop in the market. Ali and his wife were very worried about their future, but the 4 brothers were not at all worried about these events. Sometimes they would go to help their father in the field, but mostly they would make excuses to save themselves. They would just sit idle all day, eating, drinking and sleeping comfortably. If anyone ever asked Akbar to go to the field and help his father, he would say, "One of the other 3 should go and help, because I have a headache," etc., etc. Similarly, whenever anyone asked each brother to do some work, he would make up the same excuse. And each of them would offer one of his other brothers to do that work. Then there came a time when Ali really became so weak and sick that he was unable to do any work, and he really felt that he would not be able to live much longer. The compassionate father became very worried about his helpless sons, and his mind was filled with many difficult questions. He did not know what would happen to them when he was gone. They had not learned any skill, so how would they be able to provide for themselves? Despite their bad deeds, Ali loved his sons with all his heart, and wanted to help them. So the poor, weak man began to think very carefully about what to do. After much thought, Ali came up with a plan that he thought might work. He smiled to himself and asked his wife to call his 4 sons to sit before him. And before he went to sleep in the grave, he could tell them his will and give them a few words of advice. Ali's wife was very upset to hear this, because she loved her husband very much. However, she called her sons and told them about their father's wish. The 4 brothers were very shocked that their father would die. They started crying and wailing as they sat at their father's feet to listen to his last will. "Dear sons, said the compassionate father. "I have loved you and cared for you all my life. I have tried my best to make you happy and comfortable and to protect you. But now I am old and sick and I know that I will die soon." The old man began to cough again. His breathing was ragged. And now the four brothers could see for themselves that their father was indeed very sick. "But I have saved a great treasure for you," Ali continued, "so that your life may continue to be comfortable long after I am gone. A long time ago, I dug a very big and very deep hole somewhere in my farmland. Then I buried this treasure in that hole, safe for when you need it. But now I don't remember exactly where it is." The four brothers looked at each other in surprise, but they also seemed quite pleased with the sight of their father's treasure. "After I die, you will have to track it down and dig it out," Ali continued. "Then you should request your uncle, who will be the eldest in the family at that time, to divide this treasure equally among the four of you. Therefore, do not quarrel among yourselves, respect your uncle's decision. Remember that respecting your elders is an important part of our culture. You should consider it your duty to respect them." The four brothers immediately began to look anxiously for the treasure buried in the field. Ali pretended not to have noticed his son's behavior, and continued his speech. "Another piece of advice I want to give you, is that you should never fight with each other. Your enemies will incite you to plan and conspire, but whatever happens, you four should always remain united. Together you will be very powerful, and no one will be able to harm you. And don't tell anyone about this treasure until you find it." When Ali finished his speech, he closed his eyes and soon died. After the funeral and burial of their father, the brothers decided to dig from the other end of their field. They had lived their lives so leisurely, lazily, comfortably that they found it very difficult to dig even a small part of the field. The lazy brothers soon gave up and went home to rest. The next day they did the same thing again. Then the next day, and the day after that, they kept doing it until, slowly but surely, the brothers had dug up most of the field. They worked like this for another month, but they found the buried treasure. They didn't want to mention it to anyone else, or ask for help, because they didn't want anyone else to share in the treasure. They were all very tired from digging, but none of them wanted to leave the treasure. Finally, the brothers realized that they had dug the entire field, but had not found any trace of the treasure. Then they thought that their father must have buried the treasure very deep. So they decided to dig even deeper. Another month passed, but there was no sign of the buried treasure. The entire farm was now completely renovated, and even the neighbors were starting to envy the hard work of these brothers. Finally, the four brothers gave up the idea of ever finding the buried treasure. But seeing that they had prepared the field so well, they decided to cultivate wheat there that season. When the time came to harvest, the field produced a very high quality and large quantity of wheat, which all the brothers took to the market and sold for thousands of rupees. Following their father's advice, all the brothers took their earned wealth to their uncle and requested him to divide the money equally among the four of them. Their uncle became proud of the four brothers and said, "Well done, my nephews. You have finally proven that you are the hard-working sons of my hard-working brother Rahim. This field that my brother has left for you is a treasure in itself. And if you continue to work hard like this, you will always be rewarded for it." The next year, the four brothers worked hard and cultivated wheat again. This time the yield was even greater than before. And when they sold this wheat in the market, they made a lot more money than before. After working in this way for a few years, the four brothers became quite wealthy and began to enjoy their work. Finally, it became clear that Akbar, Asghar, Nazir, and Baba had solved the mystery of the buried treasure, that the real treasure was the reward of hard work and order. The four brothers were proud of their father's intelligence and foresight, because it was he alone who had taught them the virtues of hard work, discipline, unity, and respect for their elders.